Welcome to Paint Along at the Plainfield-Guilford Township Public Library. So today we're going to go step by step through a landscape painting. To begin, you'll need materials such as a canvas and brushes and paints. You can find a list of everything that you're going to need and what we recommend in our materials list, which is in a previous video. Anytime that you'd like to pause the video and catch up with what we're doing, or if perhaps you might want to skip ahead and take a look at the finished product, you can do that anytime. So the first part, the most important part of creating our painting, is that we are going to arrange the shapes in the painting so that it leads your eye around the painting. Now, it's very obvious when we're doing that in a landscape painting where the focus is the ground or objects like trees and perhaps a creek bed or something like that, or a path that leads your eye. But basically, as we're doing a cloud painting, we're going to find the same thing. We're going to be arranging the shapes, and we're going to be especially paying attention to values. Value is the lightness and the darkness that we're dealing with, the light or the darkness of a particular color or paint that we're doing. So paying attention to values is going to be especially important as we do a sky painting. So I'm going to invite you now to take a screenshot of this image. And as you can see in this particular cloud painting, there's a very strong darker value right here of this cloud, and you can see that it points upward. And then what I might do as we paint is I might just extend this out a little bit and make this a little bit darker. And then you can see that the cloud also, there's almost a line of that same shadow in this shape. So these two shapes very, very strongly cause your eye to go into this angled direction. And then the curve of this cloud with this value of a darker blue, you can see it also just brings your eye back around to a circular composition. Your eye basically just moves around this cloud. You can certainly go look around here too, but this strong movement draws your eye back to it. And that's what we're going to stay focused on today as we create this cloud painting. You can see that I have toned my canvas, and I always like to do that. I really love when little bits of color can kind of peek through the canvas. I think it causes kind of your eye vibration there. I chose orange today, or kind of a soft salmon-y orange. And the reason being that this sky painting has so much blue that if you would look on your color wheel, the opposites of blue would be orange. So I chose an exact opposite on the color wheel from what my painting is actually going to be created with. I'm going to create a gray just as a neutral gray, just so I can kind of sketch in some of the shapes. And of course, to do that, I'm going to mix some black and white. I don't use black on my canvas, but to make a nice gray, a nice neutral gray. So the first thing I want to do is locate my horizon line. So in a painting where the land would be the focus, we would bring the horizon line up so there's a lot of land to deal with. In a sky painting, we're going to bring that horizon line down to very low and make the sky the focus of our painting. That's just what we're going to do. We're going to keep it low. Just give it about across right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I see some trees right in here. I'm just going to kind of indicate those just because it's easy to do right now while I've got that horizon line going. The tree is very, very high and very tall, but it helps to define how massive these clouds are. I'm going to say about halfway through is where we start that cloud, and that's okay. I'm just going to kind of block in the shape that I'm painting right here and here. And that's kind of a darker tone, Just going to kind of, and I'm just doing basic shapes in this point. And then here, there was this large tower. So it goes up, over. There's that really beautiful curve that we have here. Okay, and then down below, we're going to sketch that, the shape that we see. And now, here we have a lower cloud, straight line. Just doing this, and then a little bit more of a cloud. And then here, we're going to go up, there, and then here and up. I think that actually came down a little more like that. And then there's more like that. I'm doing this part, this shape that I see right here. And then, as you can see, we're doing this, and then in, and then this part up and off the edge of the page, and there. Looking at, again, more shapes. We'll get to these in a little while. Basically, we're just going to do a very small shape here. Don't want to bring too much attention to all of that right now, but it is there. Okay. All right, so looking at values again, I see my darkest darks are right here. I see some darks here. I see a dark, again, going to define that little dark line. And then we have darks here. Actually, this is that part. And then here. Okay. All right. That's an interesting abstract that we have going here. So now I want to look at, just to help to define the shapes, I'm going to start beginning work on the background blues. Now, one thing I want to remind you about the clouds, that as you look up into the sky, the part of the sky that is more directly overhead, it has less atmosphere than the part that you're seeing across the horizon. So as you look up, the more center it is over your head, the deeper the blue will be. And then as it gets closer to the horizon line, there's more atmosphere, more clouds, more mist, more humidity that is close to the earth, and it gets much lighter blue the closer you get to the horizon. So we're going to keep that in mind as we paint. So let's begin with some blue, and we're just going to add white to it. Have a little of that gray in my brush, but that's perfectly fine. So you can see up here at the top, very deep blue, a very deep blue. And I'm keeping in these shapes in mind. Just painting in those shapes. I'm going to add a little white to it as I get closer to the horizon. A little more white. It's going to be a little lighter. In fact, that blue even might have just the tiniest touch of yellow in it, because it looks just a little bit more green to me, a little bit more of the direction of a turquoise. So by adding yellow, it's going to go a little bit more in the direction of turquoise, a little more like that. And now let's add some white to that. Okay. Well, I don't know if that's it, but it might be. All right then. Keeping in mind this really light blue right here at the horizon line. In fact, I want to add more white, and maybe just the tiniest hit of yellow and a tiniest hit of red to make pink. Nice, beautiful neutral. And now I'm going to add more white. I'm going to use a lot of white today, I think. But let's just see how that works. I think that's better. some of that blue, get a little bit darker blue here. Coming up here into a little more blue, picking up a little more blue. Good, right there. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting the shape of my clouds here. So there is here. A little bit of blue. There's definitely a nice big large shape of blue here. Notice how I'm getting it, it's getting deeper as we go up. I'm gonna pick up some more of that deeper blue for up here on the top of that. And our deeper blue can be up here in the corner. All right. I think we need to just take a little of that blue in there. Connect those two shapes. All right then. Starting to look a little more like clouds. Now I'm going to start to work on this gray that I see here. Again, that neutral gray. I've added a little blue to it, but it almost to me, take a closer look. It has almost a green cast to it. The reason being that when you get these types of really big billowy clouds that especially are closer to the ground, the light reflects down onto the grass and the grass is reflected onto the lower portion of the clouds. So this cloud shadow beneath it has a little bit of a green cast to it in some spots. So let's indicate that. I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow to this color. So you can see I'm doing a deep blue, gray, and I'm going to add just the tiniest touch of yellow to take it a little more green. It's a little too green, I think. Let's take a look. That might be closer than you think. Bringing a little more blue into it and a little more gray into it. Okay, I think that is just about what I want. So I'm just going to kind of, again, it might be too dark. I'm going to add a little speck of white. See if that isn't a little bit better. Yeah, that's more what I have in mind. So right now I'm doing basic shapes. We are blocking in the shapes that we see. Blocking in the shapes. These are our darker darks of these clouds. Often you'll find that cloud paintings are very abstract in their design. Okay, and then along here, and a little bit more over here. Okay, now we're going to begin blocking in the shapes of the lighter grays that we see in the clouds. So again, I'm taking that color that I was already using here, just going to add a little more white. Let's take a look at how that, we may add a little blue depending on what we get. Take a look. I think that's just about right. I think that's right about what I want. Nice middle. We're going to just do a little test here just to see what that looks like. I think I like that. So I'm kind of right now looking at the shapes that I see right here and here. Then I see, it looks like it goes whiter again, and then there is this portion that kind of dips down of a gray. Here. Probably should have thought about for a moment to just remind you that the light is coming from this direction. So this portion of each of the clouds is going to be lighter. That's where our light is coming from. So wherever you see that dark gray, your middle tone gray is going to be right probably next to it in most cases. Middle tone grays are in here. For this portion, I'm going to mix a little of the white with the gray that we had, and I'm going to add just the tiniest touch of yellow. Again, I'm just going to indicate that there's some light hitting that. Might have gone too much, and if that's the case, we'll add a little more white to it. All right then, let's just test that, see what it looks like. So I'm going to just hit a little of that. I think this is good. I don't want it to be too bright because we may come back in a bit and indicate some highlights. Actually, I think that needs to be white. I want that to connect the two. Although that is kind of messing up my my circular composition, and I'm not going to have that. So we'll come back and correct that in just a moment. Right below this dark place, I see a real hit of that light. And as you can see, the clouds down here are much smaller. As the clouds go further away into the horizon, your clouds are going to be much, much smaller in shape and in their form. We're just going to do little indications of some of those. Here. If we left this orange, it looks very much like a desert southwest kind of a scene, doesn't it? Okay. That is not what we're doing. It's going to be a green field here in Indiana. This is correct. Let's just kind of bring some more light into that because that should have been a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that's better. Indicating a little bit more of this on the right side because again, that's where our light is coming from. Okay. All right, so that's a good basic blocking in shape. I think we've got just about everything indicated here. To get green, I'm going to mix blue and a touch of yellow. quickly. Okay, those trees are really more green than I've got them. I've got them with that little bit of purple, so I'm just going to kind of indicate this is summer. By making that green, I just added more blue, giving it more of an evergreen kind of look to it. Just turn my brush on the side just to indicate that one or two lone trees that are out here. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so now I've got a much smaller brush, as you can see, and we're going to be working on details in this painting to finish it up. So I really want to add a little bit of more detail to the sky. I want to add a little more definition up here. So I'm just going to bring some of that down. And softening some of those edges up here at the top. Again, just really defining that blue. Let's start to work in some really pretty neutrals to go into that sky. So one of the really interesting things about skies is sometimes they reflect other light. They often will have a little bit of a pink tone to them, and purples. So I'm just going to, as you can see, I used a little green here. I'm mixing up with a little red and blue, giving it kind of a purple, very pink tone. I'm also going to come over here, grab some white, and let's just bring that down into a much lighter tone. Okay, there's that. I've got some blues, just some basic blues here. Just gonna, again, add a lot of white to that, bringing in just some other reflected light colors in the sky. And now I'm going to bring in some yellow and a little white, a lot of white. So I've got these really pale yellows, greens, lavenders. The only thing I don't really have here yet is some orange. So I'm going to mix it. I'm going to just add a little pink here. Kind of pull it over into that white, give it kind of an orange tone. I might just want to use some of that in there as well. We've got that orange as our underpainting, so a lot of that is showing through. All right, so these are going to dry very quickly, so I'm just going to kind of work in some of the pinks. So let's just begin. We're going to work on this cloud right here. Just giving just little. And then for unity, I'm going to pull a little bit of it in up here, give a little bit of it over here. Anywhere that I have that really light, the lighter portions of the sky, I'm just going to kind of play with that. You can see that right here. This is not precisely what I had in my design, but I like it. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. Got some of that pink in there. Just pulling in some other colors just for unity and just some interest. It'll be a lot more interesting if we have variety. This seems very heavy to me. It looks like a shark or something. And it really should kind of come up here just a little bit. I'm going to just thin that out a bit using some of those blues that we used earlier. Some more of that blue in some other areas along here. I don't know. Sometimes when I see other shapes, well, just like looking at the clouds, you know, sometimes you'll see shapes in the clouds and don't necessarily want that shark to be up there in the clouds. So, all right. Now this should get lighter as it gets closer to the horizon, so I don't want to get don't want to go crazy with that blue. I do, however, want it to be blue. I'm going to work down into these trees a little bit. They're kind of big and kind of tall. I kind of want to bring them down a little bit to again give that sky the impression of just being very massive. Cut in a couple of spots just to indicate that you can kind of see and past the fields there. Again, right here, that horizon line. Trees are very tiny. Look how tiny they are. Don't lose that. All right, this is still very massive, so I'm going to go in with some more clouds, maybe a little of that pink. Just kind of indicate some places here that I want to just kind of soften some of those lines. I do think I want this line to be pretty defined here, because this is very defined. That's helping to draw our eye. So I'm going to bring just a little of that little bit of blue over here to just kind of go back to that kind of gray that I had. Softening that line. Wherever I did that, I'm going to soften it just a bit. Okay, and some of these areas, picking up some of that color. Just going to soften this sharp edge. Because it's right there on the edge of the painting, I don't really want your eye to go up to here. We're going to kind of work the idea of making your eye kind of be here and kind of coming around. Okay, softening. And then I'm going to go get just a really much brighter white. And we're going to start to really define some of these edges. So you can see here where that light is hitting. Remember, the light's coming from this direction. So I'm working in these details now, wherever I see a little bit of white. We're going to do up on the top. Also a couple of other spots right in here. We don't want the whole cloud to be white. Remember, we worked in all of those other really beautiful colors. So we're going to hit just kind of a little bit on the top here, but mainly on these sides because, again, light is coming from this direction. A little bit here. And you can grab some of that and just maybe pull it across a little bit in some areas. Okay. But that's a pretty good indication of what we're looking for here, a little bit here. I don't want to put too much up here because, again, it's the edge of the painting. Bring this area again. pulling it over. Okay, let's do that. And now right here, we're getting a whole lot of white in that spot, right here, pulling that in. All right, and now down in this area, we've got just a little tiny hit, a little bit here and here. Okay, and now we've got some here. Remember, again, those are very small. As they go closer to the horizon, your clouds are going to be smaller. Almost there. So this is really the fun part of the painting. We worked on this entire painting basically to get to this really fun part here of adding these white highlights. But it's very satisfying and very happy, and it's really kind of the glory of this painting, those little highlights. Put a few back in here. Far away, you don't want to see too many. They're going to be more muted as they're far away. If I wanted to put that little barn in here, I could. And I'm going to just hit that ground a little bit with some highlights. I think I want to go in the direction of more of a sage green. So I'm going to add a little, make green first of all, adding a little more blue, a little yellow, and then I'm going to work a whole lot of white into it. Let's see, that's about what I want right there. So just going to kind of work that into the back in the background. There's some areas there that I want darker. I'm going to add right in here. Okay. All right, I think that is pretty close to our conclusion of this sky painting today. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep painting and come paint along with us.